Winter mornings in Manhattan were colder than Anna Bennett remembered. The glass towers loomed high above, catching the pale gray of early light, while gusts of wind sliced across her face like thin blades. Anna tightened her coat around herself, one hand gripping the tiny fingers of her daughter, Ella, who hummed a soft tune as they walked. Ella didn't understand the weight her mother carried. To her, today was an adventure, visiting the coolest building in the city, filled with robots and floating screens. But for Anna, this was the most important interview she had faced in years. After nearly a decade of freelancing, piecing together income from midnight code and short-term contracts to raise her daughter, today she was stepping into Orion Systems, New York's leading AI and robotics company, for a shot at a lead data scientist position. She had prepared everything: her resume, demo projects, deep research into Orion's internal structure, all tucked into a worn leather bag slung over her shoulder. But nothing could have prepared her for what waited beyond the polished glass doors. When the conference room opened and the assistant announced, "Mr. Julian Hayes will be conducting the interview," Anna froze. That name, that face, that voice, calm and deep, those eyes still the same. It was him, Julian Hayes, the founder of Orion Systems, the man who, once upon a time, had meant everything to her. She stood still, not because he was now successful, not because of the flood of memories, but because of the little girl standing beside her. Ella, clutching a stuffed toy, wore a golden rocket-shaped pendant around her neck, an exact replica of the charm Julian had handcrafted for Anna after their first hackathon victory long ago. He stopped mid-step, not because Anna looked stunning, but because in that moment, he wasn't just looking at her. He was looking at his past in the form of a child. 10 years ago, Anna never imagined her entire life would change because of one sleepless night in an old warehouse in Brooklyn. She was 21 then, ambitious, caffeinated, and burning with the hunger to prove herself. As a data science intern, Anna had earned a spot in the tech fellowship program at a fledgling startup, Orion Systems. Back then, the company was just a handful of mismatched desks, scribbled whiteboards, and a group of eccentric coders obsessed with building robots that could feel. It was there that she met Julian Hayes, the founder. Tall, quiet, always with a notebook in hand and eyes that seemed to hold 100 algorithms at once. That night, a heated debate about deep learning and behavioral data turned into an impromptu challenge between Anna and Julian. Within 4 hours, Anna built a working, real-time behavior mapping model. Julian sat silently behind her, watching her fingers fly across the keyboard like he was witnessing a symphony. When she hit enter on the final line of code, he handed her a cold ginger soda and said quietly, "You just rewrote our future." From that moment, something shifted. At first, they were just colleagues, brilliant, in sync. Then they were partners in late-night coding, escaping deadlines with riverside walks and scribbled sticky note jokes on the whiteboard. Eventually, they became something deeper. There was no grand confession, just shared glances in midnight hours and a silent hand resting over hers. Anna called Julian her light switch because everything lit up when he walked in. Julian called her his gravity, the only thing that ever made him want to slow down. But success had its cost. Orion started attracting investors. With growth came structure, meetings, deadlines, and an inbox that never stopped pinging. Anna found out she was pregnant after taking 3 tests. She could barely form words when she called her best friend Emma. That night, she headed to the lab, intending to tell Julian everything. But he was gone. Flew to San Francisco for an urgent investor meeting, something he'd never even mentioned. A week passed. The messages became shorter, the calls briefer. Then came the silence. Julian didn't ghost her. He just disappeared into duty. And Anna didn't chase him. She told herself, now wasn't the time. Saying it out loud would only make things worse. She chose silence, not out of fear, but because she believed he didn't need another weight dragging him down while he was trying to hold the future together. Anna sat down across from him in the conference room, with Ella still standing beside her, quietly fidgeting with a soft robot doll in her hands. She could feel Julian's eyes on her. Not harsh, not cold, just silent, as though he was searching for something buried beneath years of distance. "Ms. Bennett," Julian began, his voice low and unusually calm. "We were impressed with your application. Please, go ahead." Anna nodded slightly. Her hands trembled, but her voice did not. She started presenting her work, layered data models she built for a healthcare platform, algorithms for streamlining unstructured data in real time. Every word, every diagram was delivered with clarity and control. Julian nodded occasionally, eyes fixed on the graphs displayed on her tablet. But now and then his gaze drifted toward Ella, who sat quietly, fingers playing with the necklace around her neck. And then it happened. He paused. Anna realized too late the necklace. The golden rocket ship, the one Julian had designed himself using a 3D model and laser cut back in their old lab. There was only one. Anna had worn it through the early days of motherhood, and this morning, Ella had picked it out because it looked like a space toy. Julian leaned down, his eyes narrowing on the charm. He didn't speak. He only reached out, gently touching it. Ella looked up at him, smiling. "You know this?" Julian swallowed hard. His expression changed, not the composed face of a CEO, but the haunted look of a man seeing something he didn't know he'd lost. He looked up at Anna. His voice when it came was almost a whisper. "I didn't know she'd be with you." Anna couldn't answer, not because she didn't want to, but because she didn't know where to begin. The silence grew heavy. Around them, the others, assistants, developers, began to sense something off. Julian straightened, took a deep breath, and turned to the interview panel. "That's all for today. Thank you." Anna frowned. "I haven't finished." "No need," he interrupted, eyes still on Ella. "We'll be in touch." The hallway inside Orion had never felt so long. Julian said nothing. Anna said nothing. Between them stretched a silence thick as stone, not empty, but weighted with all the words left unsaid for nearly a decade. Ella still held Anna's hand, but the little girl had started glancing curiously back at Julian. She had no idea she was now at the center of a storm neither adult had seen coming. When the elevator opened to the executive floor, Julian led them into a quiet, private space, far removed from the buzz of Orion's main offices. His corner suite was just like him, minimalist, meticulous, designed with calculated restraint. But in that moment, the neatness of it all only made Anna feel more breathless. "There's a small robot demo station outside." Julian bent down to Ella, voice softer than Anna remembered. "Want to go see?" Ella nodded. An assistant appeared on cue, smiling kindly as she took the little girl's hand and walked her out of the room. The door clicked shut. Just Julian and Anna remained. He stood by the window, hands in his pockets, his shoulders taut. Anna didn't sit. Her fingers were laced tightly in front of her, like she was bracing herself to not fall apart. She didn't look at him, didn't speak. "I didn't know," Julian said, his voice hoarse and low. "Anna, I swear to you, I didn't know you were pregnant." A beat passed, then another. Anna stayed silent. "I meant to tell you," she said finally. "That night I went to the lab, but you were gone. No message, no call, just gone." Julian exhaled, brushing a hand through his hair. "I had a red-eye flight. Last minute. I figured I'd call you after the pitch in San Francisco, but everything happened so fast. Meetings, investors, press. By the time I tried to reach you again, your number was disconnected. You could have tried harder." Her voice was quiet but clear. "You knew where I lived, where I worked." He nodded slightly, eyes cast downward. "I didn't try. And that's on me, entirely." The air in the room grew heavier. Outside, the wind whispered past the skyscrapers. Anna inhaled deeply. Her voice trembled, not with anger, but with the weight of all she'd carried alone. "You vanished, Julian, and I had to keep going every single day. I coded from basements, picked up freelance projects just to make rent, raised a child with one hand while trying to keep the other from shaking." Julian turned. His eyes were red. "If I had known, Even a clue, Anna, I would have never left. I wouldn't have walked away from my child. For the first time in years, she met his gaze. There was no accusation, no dramatic pause, just truth, clear and cutting. Little girl. Ella is your daughter. Julian took a half step back, as if the words had physically struck him. He stumbled toward the nearest chair and sank into it, burying his face in his hands. His shoulders trembled. When he finally looked up, his eyes were wet with disbelief. Does she know? She knows her father is far away, that he loves rockets, that he's smart and kind, but she doesn't know your name. She doesn't know this story. Julian's voice cracked. I want to be part of her life, if you'll allow it. Anna folded her arms, instinctively drawing back. Her voice cooled. And what does that mean exactly? A few tech toys once a month? A couple of weekend visits and some polite check-ins? No, he answered instantly. Not obligation. Not convenience. I don't want to do the right thing for show. I want to do the real thing. For her. From the beginning. From zero, if that's what it takes. She studied him for a long moment. In her eyes swirled a storm. Hurt, hope, distrust, and something else. Something she'd buried years ago. She turned away, walking toward the glass wall and the endless lights of New York flickering in the winter haze. I came here for a job, Julian, not to reopen a chapter I spent years trying to close. He stepped forward but stopped at a respectful distance. His voice softened, like he feared that if he spoke too loudly, she might disappear again. You deserve both, the job and the answers. The next morning, Anna returned to Orion's systems, not quite sure what had brought her back. Was it the real possibility of a career move? Unfinished questions still spinning in her mind. Or maybe something deeper she wasn't ready to name. Julian was already waiting in the mezzanine lobby. No coffee, no polite smile, just a quiet nod. They walked side by side in silence. This time, the silence between them didn't sting like it had the day before. It felt calmer, like two people stepping carefully through the wreckage of what once was. He led her into a quiet meeting room, no assistants, no interruptions. On the table sat a folder, neatly labeled, Offer Letter, Anna Bennett, Lead Data Architect, Orion Systems. I asked HR to draft your contract last night, Julian said, voice low but no longer guarded. No special treatment, no shortcuts, just your portfolio, your work. Anna picked up the folder and opened it. Her eyes scanned the lines. Term, responsibilities, salary, promotion path. Clear, direct, fair. There wasn't a trace of bias or sentiment, just a professional offer built on merit. You did all this overnight? She asked, her voice tinged with disbelief. Julian gave a small smile. Didn't sleep either. The pause hung in the air. Are you doing this for her or for you? Anna asked, this time meeting his eyes fully. For all three of us, he replied without hesitation, but only if you want it. Anna set the folder down. If I sign this, it won't be because of history, it'll be because I earned it. You did, Julian said firmly, from the moment I first read your resume, even before I knew who it belonged to. She was silent for a long moment, then said softly, if I work here, you don't get to treat me differently. I'll treat you like the asset you are to this company, and if you want distance, I'll give it. She nodded, slowly, but this time there was no hesitation in her eyes. Then I'll start tomorrow. Julian exhaled, relief flickering behind his calm expression and just the hint of a smile breaking through. On her first day, Anna asked for no favors. She didn't mention Julian, nor did she expect a single look of sympathy. She simply opened her laptop, logged into the system, and got to work. Her first assignment, a healthcare chatbot, an AI platform built to assist elderly users in managing medications, scheduling follow-ups, and answering basic health questions. The problem? The current model was too rigid. Users described the bot as cold and robotic. Anna quietly observed, then suggested a small but impactful change. a contextual emotional response library. She rewrote major portions of the natural language processing engine, retrained it using real patient feedback, casual tones, everyday phrasing, genuine human emotion. Within 3 days, the updated version rolled out for internal testing. The team was stunned when a test subject, a retired nurse, smiled and said, "For the first time, it felt like someone was actually listening to me." Julian didn't ask Anna for permission, and she didn't exactly invite him over often. But somehow, he began to appear, never loud, never trying too hard, just consistently there. At first, it was little things. A box of muffins left at the front desk when he knew Isla was working late. A children's astronomy book set sent to Ella, along with a handwritten note. "For the youngest astronaut I've ever met." Anna didn't text back, but she kept the note. Then came a rainy afternoon. Anna got a call from Ella's preschool. She had a fever, was asking for her mom, and Anna was locked into an investor presentation she couldn't leave. After a long pause, she dialed Julian's number. He didn't hesitate. "I'm on my way." He arrived at the school in 20 minutes. He carried Ella out of the nurse's room like it was something he'd done for years. At Anna's apartment, he didn't speak much, just dabbed Ella's forehead, warmed up soup, and sat beside her bed reading stories until she drifted off. Anna stood in the hallway, briefcase still in hand, her chest tight at the sight. From that day forward, everything started to shift. Not suddenly, but slowly, like autumn giving way to winter. Julian learned to braid Ella's hair, badly. The first few attempts were lopsided disasters, but Ella clapped and called them perfect. They built paper robots together, colored rocket ships, and once, when Julian dozed off in a chair, Ella drew a mustache on his face with marker. One quiet Sunday afternoon, Julian was helping her assemble a plastic space shuttle when Ella climbed into his lap, wrapped her arms around his neck, and whispered, "Can I call you Daddy?" Julian froze. It wasn't a joke, not a slip of the tongue. It was a question, a request. A tiny key offered by a little girl who was ready to unlock the door to her heart. He pulled her into a hug, his voice trembling. "If you want to, it would mean the world to me." From the hallway, Anna saw it all. She leaned against the wall, eyes stinging. Her heart, guarded for so long, felt like something inside it had cracked just enough to let light in. She had feared this moment for years. Feared her daughter would open her heart and be abandoned. Feared Julian wouldn't be strong enough. But the way he looked at Ella in that moment, no ego, no defense, just raw gratitude, told her this wasn't the man who had left. Not anymore. That night, after Ella had fallen asleep, Julian stepped out of her room, still visibly moved. "You heard that?" he asked quietly. Anna nodded. "I didn't expect it," he said, eyes still unfocused, as if speaking it aloud might cause it to disappear. "I know I've missed too much already." "About you're here now," Anna replied. Her voice no longer held the sharpness it once did, and today she saw that. Julian looked at her as if hearing something he didn't dare hope for. Not a promise, not forgiveness, but maybe possibility. Anna didn't offer assurances. She didn't define what came next. But when he left that night, she opened the door to see him off. And for the first time, she didn't close it the moment he disappeared. That night, the rooftop of Orion was lit with hundreds of warm golden bulbs suspended beneath the velvet black sky of New York. Laughter echoed through the air, wine glasses clinked, soft jazz played in the background. It was just an internal mixer, another company event. But for Anna, it became something more. She wore a simple black jumpsuit, her hair pinned back, makeup minimal, nothing extravagant, just enough to reflect the quiet confidence she was slowly reclaiming. Ella was with Nina, her best friend, for the evening. Anna walked into the space alone, but didn't feel alone. Julian was already there, leaning against the railing, a glass of water in hand. When he saw Anna, his eyes didn't leave hers, but he didn't approach either. He simply nodded. A silent greeting that held weight. Anna walked over, stopping beside him. They They stood for a moment, side by side, saying nothing, just watching the city lights pulse beyond the skyline. "Do you like it up here?" Julian asked, voice calm, not pushing. "I do," she said. "It's quieter than I expected. I come up here when things get too loud. It reminds me how small I really am compared to this city." Anna turned to glance at him. That face, once her refuge after long coding nights, was older now, more worn. But the eyes were the same, and this time she didn't look away. "You've changed," she said softly. Julian didn't smile. "I had to. If I didn't, I'd have lost what little I had left." "You already lost me once," she replied, eyes still on the skyline. "And I don't know if I came out of that hole." "I don't know if I did either," Julian said, "but if any part of you still wants to believe in me, I won't waste that." A breeze stirred, lifting strands of her hair, brushing them lightly across his shoulder. They still didn't touch, but the space between them was smaller than it had been in years. Anna smiled, not at anything in particular, but because, for the first time, she didn't feel the need to shield herself from him. The war inside her between anger and hope had gone quiet. "We started with a dream once," she said, "and lost each other somewhere between deadlines," Julian finished. "This time, if we begin again," Anna said, "I don't want it to be because of what we used to be. I want it to be about who we are now." Julian looked at her. "I want that too." Nothing changed overnight. There was no tearful reunion, no special date circled on the calendar to mark the beginning. Just early mornings, the sound of Ella's slippers padding across the kitchen floor, the smell of toast, and Julian at the table, with coffee in hand, quietly checking his meeting schedule. They didn't live together, yet, but Julian started coming by more often. He took Ella to school a few times a week, learned how to tie her shoelaces in what Ella called the bunny ear loop, and occasionally attempted breakfast, though he still managed to burn the eggs. Anna remained cautious. She hadn't let her heart fully fall back into place, but when she saw Ella lean her head on Julian's shoulder during a family movie night, or heard their laughter echoing from the living room, she knew this was real. One evening, as Julian was grabbing his coat to leave, Ella tugged on his sleeve. "Can you stay for dinner, Daddy?" Julian looked at Anna, not assuming, not pressing, just asking with his eyes. She nodded. Not because he was Ella's father, but because that night they had truly become a family. On the 17th floor, where only high-level strategy meetings were held, Anna was invited to present her upgraded AI framework for the first time. The glass-walled room was filled with board members, executives on either side of the long table. Julian sat quietly at the far end, not speaking, not interfering. Anna stood at the front of the screen, hands steady, voice clear and composed. She didn't need an introduction. She didn't reference the challenges of being a single mom. She spoke only of architecture, data flow, and how her model reduced user response lag by 38%. When she finished, the room held still for a few seconds. Then Meredith Quinn, the notoriously tough chief strategist, nodded and said, "Clean logic, sharp implementation. You think like someone who builds foundations." Anna smiled softly, not with pride, but with the quiet satisfaction of earned recognition. After the room cleared, Julian stood, not to compliment, but simply to offer her a look of unmistakable respect. Anna stepped into the hallway, tablet in hand. She didn't need anyone to tell her she was good. Today, she already knew. An early autumn night. The air was crisp. Anna's small balcony was dusted with a thin layer of evening dew. The city shimmered in the distance, each lit window pulsing like the steady breath of a place that never slept. Julian stood beside her, hands tucked into his coat pockets. They didn't speak much, just 2 mugs of warm tea, shared silence, and the comfort of not having to fill the space between them. "Do you remember the first time we stood on a rooftop together?" Anna asked, eyes still fixed on the skyline. Julian nodded slightly. "Back then, I just hoped you'd look at me one more time." She turned to him. The soft golden light grazed her cheek. "And this time?" Julian exhaled. Then he reached into his pocket and pulled out a small box. No sparkle, no diamond, just a silver band with a simple engraving inside. For the years we missed, and all that's still to come. Anna looked at him. No words needed. Her tears came before the smile did. From inside, Ella wandered out, half asleep, whispering, "Say yes, Mommy." Anna laughed, wiped her cheek, and whispered, "Yes." 1 year had passed since the night Anna said yes on that misty little balcony. There had been no grand wedding, no flowing white dress or glittering ballroom, just a small ceremony attended only by those who truly mattered. And Ella, wearing a pink dress covered in rocket print, took the mic and proudly declared, "Mom and Dad are the people I love most in the whole universe." Life didn't become perfect afterward, but it became real, and it became theirs. Anna stayed at Orion, but her work now reached beyond AI systems. She led a program called Girls in Tech, partnering with New York public schools to open doors for young girls who loved technology but had little access. She often stood in front of hundreds of students, sharing stories of writing her first line of code at age 12 and of struggling through solo motherhood with nothing but a laptop and grit. But most of all, she told them this: women in tech don't have to choose between a career and a heart. They can have both, if they choose themselves first. Ella had just built her first app, a simple one that reminded her to water her plants using cat meows. It didn't win any contests, but Julian printed its QR code on a giant poster and taped it around the house like it was the next big thing in Silicon Valley. Julian also taught Ella to play the guitar, something he'd never had the time or patience for before. Evenings were filled with music, half-formed melodies and off-key chords, as she sang along shyly to the beginner notes. She often forgot the words, he often missed a beat, but they laughed like it was the greatest show on earth. And maybe for them, it was. On Sunday mornings, Anna sat on the balcony, hands wrapped around a warm mug of coffee, watching Julian and Ella cook in the kitchen. Her daughter stirring pancake batter with an oversized spoon, Julian pretending to be a world-class chef. Nearby, their cardboard robot sat quietly, a witness to everything they'd managed to mend. There were no profound declarations, no grand finale, but in that quiet, ordinary moment, Anna knew. This was the ending she once didn't dare dream of. She exhaled, a gentle smile curling across her lips. We lost time, she thought, but we found a whole life.